Hi everybody, welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. Before we get started today, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button so I can continue to bring you information that will help you in your music career. You can also email me questions to gigwithmikeredman@gmail.com. I try to answer all of them. This year, the 808 was named 2024's Best Artist in Charlotte, North Carolina. Ryan Edwards is an incredibly talented artist and has met the challenges of being a solo artist while creating a solid career for himself. Today, he shares some great career advice and lessons he's learned along the way. So as always on Gig, let's jump right in. Hey, well, hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I'm happy. I'm happy we could make it. How's Charlotte today?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's been overly hot, probably more hot since I've moved up here in the past 13 years than I've ever felt.
Yeah.
So very uncomfortable. Normally my wife and I are out like hiking and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this entire summer we've maybe been outside twice.
Oh my God. Really?
It's been that bad.
Charlotte's not a good elevation either. I mean, it's not very high.
No,
is it?
yeah, exactly. So we definitely try to make it up in the mountains here and there. Like we went apple picking like 2 weeks ago just to escape the heat a little bit.
Yeah.
Up in Hendersonville.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool. Well, it's we don't want we don't want anybody else to move to North Carolina, so we won't talk about how great it is here. So, but right. Yeah, I'm really happy to have you. I just noticed when I was reading about you a little bit too that it's a very small world because you went to Seminole State College.
Yes. Yep.
I went there too.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Whoa.
It's wild. And my son and wife live in Eustis. So
that's where my entire family lives right now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm from, is Eustis, Florida.
Yeah. So I remember Eustis is kind of cool now. With the airplane tours and everything. There was a time when it was just not.
It was. I mean, growing up there, there wasn't really anything there. I loved it because it was central to Orlando. It was central to all the beaches. I could be to a beach in 40 minutes, pretty easy. But yeah, very small town. Nothing, really didn't keep up with the times for a long time. But now I go back home and shocked every time I come home, there's something new.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here we go. This is great. My family's loving it.
Oh, that's cool. We were down at a couple of the bars just a few weeks ago. So
nice.
We're really here to talk today with you as an artist. First of all, congratulations on winning Charlotte's Best Artist of 2024.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a shock. I knew people knew of me. I've been around for a few years, but the way that it happened was just crazy. Yeah, I didn't expect it to happen. Let's just say that.
Did it, I don't want to say, did it help you? Was there any impact at all from that for your professional career?
It's funny. It has helped kind of solidify me as an artist in other ways, like especially with some of my other musical avenues now, because it doesn't just look like I'm just an artist. It's just like, hey, I actually do focus and put a lot of attention into my artistry, and that's really where I came from.
Yeah.
So to have something like that happen, one, kind of felt good to me because it's actually been a goal of mine to always win one of the best of some city of thing, just kind of thought, yeah. And then it happened, and it definitely brought light to a lot of people in Charlotte going, oh, whoa, who are you? And the people that didn't know me, but it did help kind of boost me as like artistry, as well as in like even my production music, because that's what all this came out of, was my artistry.
Yeah.
And it just shows like, hey, I'm not just saying I'm an artist. Like I actually put a lot into it as well, on the other side.
I'm really curious, since you're a solo artist, why'd you choose not to use your name, but really be the 808, which by the way is very cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was funny. I've always been a really big proponent of branding, and I wasn't a typical singer-songwriter, right? I wasn't going into country music. I wasn't going into any of the like standard pop avenues, right? I didn't think I was going to be the guy to pull off Ryan Edwards or Ryan James or something like that. I was like, I want to be able to have a name that I can build something off of, and a brand, and something that kind of solidifies that you could see it on a t-shirt, a poster, all those things, and then build something fun around that.
Yeah.
But the 808 also, it had a couple different meanings when I was making it. One, of course, of, when the sound of the 808, the TR-808.
Oh my gosh, that's going way back. Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. But it made waves in the industry. It changed music. It allowed new genres to be birthed. And I loved what the 808 did. And
tell people what that is. The people that don't know.
Yeah. So an 808 is really like a very highly used sound in hip hop, pop, all that stuff, where it's a very bassy, sometimes overlaid with a kick, or it's just used as bass instead, but you feel an 808 when it hits. It shakes a room. You can feel it punching in your chest. And that was kind of the feeling I wanted the 808 to give, is that feeling. I also thought it was really funny that the code that the police use for too much loud noise and like rowdiness is 808. So I was like,
oh, that's interesting. Okay.
That was cool too. I found that and I was like, well, that kind of makes sense because my music can be very loud and rowdy.
Yeah. How would you describe your music, Ryan?
I can give it to you perfectly. That was one of my goals. So I described the 808 as pop with a rock and roll heartbeat.
Okay.
So it's very pop forward. Like in my lyrics, I love how melodies dance in pop music and they become this thing. But I am a huge rock and roll player. I love rock and roll. So I wanted to figure out how to fuse those together as best as possible to create my sound. Also, when I would go see pop artists live, it was much different than their records. They had a full band behind them. Yeah. And I was like, how can I do that? I want to like make what I just saw live, but into my music. So make pop fuse with the rock and roll and then just give it that energy.
That's cool. That's made it makes it extremely commercially accessible too, which is not a bad thing,
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you mainly a guitarist or a keyboard
mainly
player?
Yeah, mainly guitar. I can play a little bit of everything. I actually started with trumpet back in the day because my dad was a trumpet player when he was young in the U.S. Collegiate Wind Band.
Wow.
So he traveled the world in the U.S. Wind Band, basically. And so trumpet was always there. And he loved playing guitar and stuff. But coming up through middle school, the first instrument I ever learned was trumpet. But then I was homeschooled for 1 year only. And I was so bored.
Oh, gotcha.
That I was like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. And I taught myself guitar. Like I never took lessons. I never did any of that. So guitar is my main thing. And then, singing kind of came behind with that. And then I just decided to start learning everything else so I could record myself someday. So
that's really interesting that you played trumpet because I was a composer. I worked, a lot of the stuff I did was for Disney and Universal and them, but I was also an artist, kind of a R&B thing. And the people that I knew that were the best composers, at least in my view, started out as trumpet players. There's something.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. That's cool.
Something about their ear that was different, and it's interesting that you did that. Tell us just a little bit quickly about your rig. What do you play?
Yeah, so right now, my live rig, I finally have made the jump over to the digital amps. I don't go as crazy as everybody. I'm kind of using a Strymon Iridium for my amp simulations now, which is a pretty small pedal. You load up, a left and right amp to it. But I still go pretty analog, old school compared to most people because I love being able to touch the knobs and dial in and stuff.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of my two guitars I go from are a Gibson Les Paul, of course, and a Fender Telecaster, the standards.
Okay.
And then I run into a lot of JHS pedals. I've used them for a very long time. I love those guys. And I just started picking up some of the good old Strymon stuff for like delays and whatnot. Still running the old school Boss RV5 reverb on the tail end there. And also still running an old school Line 6 DL4 delay, which people laugh about. But I love it because I can manipulate it so crazy. But yeah, and then it runs out to the Strymon and hits whatever live gig thing. And then for in ears, I use 64 ears. I've been using those guys for a really, really long time now, since they were 1964 back in the day.
Wow, they work well for you.
I love them. In all honesty, I've had one pair for over 16 years already, and they've never gone bad. Yeah,
no
I mean, it's wild how much, like, I think even my volume pedal that I had just went out after 15 years because the line finally snapped.
No kidding.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I've gone magnetic with those. I've got the Lele now for volume, and but yeah, that's kind of it. I was running through a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe for a long time in my amp.
Oh, really?
I still have it. I love it. I mean, it's such a funny amp because you put it on 1.5 and it's already too loud.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They never
fixed
that.
Yeah.
I did. I love them, man. And I toured with it for years and years and years and years. So it was great. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm running.
That's neat. I don't work. I don't play gigs anymore. But I just have to show you this because you mentioned knobs. Oh, come on, this way.
Oh,
this is
yeah.
what
I'm already envious. Yeah, I'm ready to jump into the Kemper world, especially for my studio recording.
Oh my God, I have to say, man, when I turned it, I had some guys that are pretty, engineer friends that are pretty well known, and they were taking pretty famous guitarists and saying, hey, you should try this, and like, forget it, man. My Wall of Marshalls works great, and they all made the switch. Are you touring with 808?
No, I haven't. Funny enough, the 808 has really been an online digital artistry. It was intended to go on the road.
Yep.
I actually had a rack mount down here ready to run my tracks with my band. I had a band set up, all this stuff, and then COVID hit. And that just pretty much, like, everybody ended up moving, or like the band kind of did it. And it kind of just switched, like, what am I going to do with this music now? Right. Like, dude, no one's off touring. No one's doing anything. What do I do? And that's really when I dove into learning a different side of value for my music, which led me into more of the music licensing. And
we're going to talk
deciding to learn.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but no, it hasn't toured. I really, I play mainly with, some friends here and there. I play at a church every weekend, of course, on Sundays. But other than that, no, it's been just completely online, which has, in all honesty, surprisingly been fun, because a lot of people around the world who are my biggest fans are like in Brazil and Ukraine and stuff. And I was probably never going to get over there anytime soon, so it still feels like I'm connected as if I had been touring like I used to. But yeah, it's definitely been it was intended, and then the world went upside down. So
Do you spend a fair amount of time on social media promoting 808?
Sometimes. I don't really go too hard in it. I promote some of the highlights like normal. I do run consistent like ads to point new people towards my music, which is kind of where then I communicate, because they message me. That's when they'll comment with me, and that's when I get to get engaged. So I am getting a lot of people on there. But I've learned a lot of people just want to hear the music and talk to me directly. So I was posting all the time, and it just felt like I was kind of running circles all the time, but now that people are actually messaging me directly, based pretty much upon those ads that I run directly to my, music, that's been way more effective for me, in all honesty, than me posting 1,000 times a day and hearing from 20 to 100 people at most.
In the moment you decided that music was going to be your life and career, could you talk about that? I mean, do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. In all honesty, there's a lot of people that say, when I was little, I knew what I wanted to do. And I was one of those people. It was just growing up in a musical house, having parents that completely let me dive into that. I mean, I remember one major pivot. I always am a person where if someone says, hey, you're not going to be able to do this, or you can't, or how are you?
Yeah.
I then make it happen, right? I put every bit of my energy in to make sure that I'm well educated and then dive in. And that's the big thing, is being well educated, not just diving in. And I've always been a proponent. So I do remember in high school one time going to one of those career days they make you go to, and you sit down with a person, and it ended up, funny enough, ended up being one of my best friend's moms. That was the career person that day.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm going to be a rock star, or I'm going to be a musician. That's what I'm going to do. And she's like, that's not realistic. That's not real.
That's not a career. Yeah.
Yeah. Try again. Ever since that day, I was like, oh, you watch. I'm going to put everything I've got into this, because this is what I love to do, and I'm never going to back down. And then it happened time and time again. There's many things that have happened. So it really was, when I was little, I always knew music was going to be the thing.
Yeah.
But it really solidified probably that moment in high school when she said, you can't.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, here we go. And then I've never stopped since then.
That's a perfect lead into what we're going to talk about next, which is the word, current music and Maddie and how they influenced your career. Could you talk just a little bit about how that came about and what you do and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I'll start with where I got kind of triggered into even the idea of that realm. I was in a studio in Nashville recording, I think, the 808's second EP. And I was talking with the producer. I've been recording with this guy for probably over 12 years now. When he was in LA, he was in Nebraska, I was always recording with him. And then one day, he had a song that he had written that was doing like pretty well in the sports arena, like sports area. And he was on TV, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. Because I've always been a huge movie and TV guy. And I'm always like, how do you get your music in this? It's just like, I just assumed it just happened,
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the studio with him and saying, hey, let me write with you and let's do that. And he was pretty much like, why? I don't need you to do this, and I was like, oh, okay. But I knew I wanted to do it because I had been dabbling in the movie industry by acting and working in studios here and there for fun. And I was like, okay, fine, then I'll just figure it out. Right. And that's when I said, I'm going to go into the education of this and really learn how to be a service to that industry, not just get into the industry. And so I kind of did some research and found a guy out there he put a course out there, and there's a lot of courses out there, but this is what I tell people is he's the guy that kickstarted everything for me. And his name was Michael Elsner. He was teaching me the value of a single song and what it could be, what all the different versions could be, the narrations and all these things, and the 60-second cuts in the 30s, and then how important metadata was. And I was just like, what is this? Like, who would have known? Oh my gosh. I never knew there was going to be so much to this, but I already was so used to working with stems and things, like with touring and recording all the time, that world kind of became natural to me to be able to create what almost looked like a production library, but I didn't even know I was creating a production music library. I thought I was just creating many usable versions for the 808, right? Like that's all I thought I was doing, just to be a service. So his course was kind of pivotal for me to not look dumb, I guess, coming in going, help me with everything, but I don't know anything, right? Like I can't be a service to somebody if I don't know things. And he was like, let me let you be a service to somebody and teach you that. And so not only that, when I got done with it, I kind of found his personal email somehow, and I got in touch with him, and we actually met up, and he was like, I don't know how you found that, but good job. Like, wow. He kind of was like almost that first mentor for me to get me understanding the value of what the 808's music could be and a whole new avenue. And so he let me into that. Well, come down the road a little bit longer, I was doing these meetings through this other service, which led me to Maddie Madsen. And she was, and it wasn't one of those things where like, they were just like, oh, you're going to meet with Maddie. It was more like, there's all these people, you get to choose who you're going to meet with, but you only can meet with like 2 or 3.
Oh, interesting.
And something in my mind said, do I want to go meet with these people, or do I want to go meet with who at the time was a sync agent, right? Like that's what she was. And I was like, why is nobody like signing up to like go meet with this lady? She's an agent. Like, she knows people. Like, that's something told me to do that. So I went to her only. I was like, I'm just going to go talk with her.
Right.
Come to find out, she's just an incredible human being. Like,
Maddie Madsen is, Maddie Madsen's like the top, man. She's amazing.
Oh, yeah. So when I say Michael was like the guy that got me there, Maddie is the one that mentored me and made it a reality.
Okay.
So when I met with her the first time, she realized that I had set myself up more like a production music library and less like an artist, but that I also was an artist and had all that ready. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, you're set up in ways that I've never met with other artists or people. Like, this is way bigger than you think it is. And she was so kind enough to be like, let me mentor you into building this into something for yourself. And she already owned catalogs, she already did that, but she was so kind to like say, let me facilitate you into being your own thing.
Wow.
And let me mentor you through that. And then between her and Christian also at the agency, I mean, changed my life, in all honesty. It really did. And Maddie still to this day is one of my favorite people, that I talk to weekly. And it's because of her that I was able, to allow the 808 to be what it became now, as well as what my, now production stuff is becoming via the 808 as well. So that's kind of how it all led. There was one guy telling me no, which led me to education, which then led me to Maddie in the end, in all honesty. And
that's
many
crazy.
other people beyond that now. Yeah.
You also do custom projects for them, right?
I do. Yeah. Sometimes I team up with Maddie and sometimes Rob as well over there. And we work on custom things that come in either for current music or on the side. And it's been really fun. It's really allowed me to expand as a writer. In lots of different genres and stuff, which is now bled into my other music, which it's been great. Yeah,
that's cool. So financially, library music is more, it's going to come down the road. You write it today, a year, 2, 3 from now, it starts making money. And actually, I still get checks for stuff I did 30 years ago. So, custom music is kind of, I don't want to say it's the opposite, but you usually get paid something. You're getting paid up front to do this music, or when it's done, and then there's typically still some back end. Is that what you've experienced?
It depends on the custom job, right? Like sometimes there's custom stuff where yes, they're like, hey, we're going to pay you this fee up front to do this, and then you'll maintain your writer shares through this thing, right? And then there's other custom jobs where it's more like they're hiring us to record public domain pieces for a movie, for a scene, right? Well, we don't own that music. They're hiring us to re-record what they're going to film to and stuff. So there's not really back end on that kind of stuff because you're just basically recreating, something for a film use. But yeah, so there's both worlds and we do a lot of both worlds and it's been really fun. I'm
assuming that gives you the freedom to do a lot of your just more creative, the creative 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like, they're giving you a brief, obviously, of like, hey, this is what we need.
Yeah.
But they are wanting you to put your thing on it, right? They don't want the reproduction of what was, they want the reproduction of what is you now of that, and that's what gets really fun. Yeah.
Thank you for all of that. Let's do a quick little rapid fire, and then we're going to wrap it up. So,
yeah, sure.
Favorite song you've ever written?
Oh, goodness. So I'm thinking. So there's and people always laugh. I wrote a song called Punch Me, and it sounds so crazy, but it really entitles the feeling I had growing up in a small town at times.
Uh-huh.
It's also got one of the more like aggressive, fun, like kind of pop punk pop kind of things going on that allowed me to get a little bit more into my feelings of that. That was a fun one. I'm trying to think of the other one. You know, it might even be Sipping on Sunshine, in all honesty, because I wrote it as a way to be like, I'm so tired of, you know, you go up to somebody and you're like, hey, how you doing? They're just like, good, but they could be doing absolutely terrible. You know, and there's always that, and there's always that saying of, you know, oh yeah, I'm sipping on sunshine, so everything's great, you know. And I was like, I'm so tired of like being that person that's just like, yeah, it's good when you're not. So I wrote it as a way to be like, in a way, a poking way of, stop doing that, be real, you know, like say what you really feel, because the whole song sounds very happy, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's really kind of going down the path of like how I'm really emotionally and mentally right now. But to you, I'm lying and I'm just saying, yep, good to go, you know.
I'm gonna listen to that when we get off here. So you did for a lot of years, you toured.
I did,
and do you have a favorite tour that you did?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So one of my favorites was, I was in a band back from Central Florida. That's where we were. And we did in one summer a complete international tour, 2 weeks in the Dominican Republic, which was pretty crazy.
Wow, interesting.
Flew home for 24 hours and then flew to Peru for 2 weeks and played.
Wow, that sounds
We
fun,
did a
though.
bunch of radio down there. We ended up like, especially in Peru, we were in this one city and there was a massive concert festival ground that we headlined it and everything. And these like soda companies and stuff from Lima were flying in and they brought all this stuff. And as a side trip after that concert, now once again, this is South America, so there is a level of danger to it in those public regions.
Been down there.
So I mean, we were standing on stage with people with machine guns on stage with us to protect us. Because there was definitely some odd times here and there, but we did go into the jungle and we went into the Amazon and stuff.
Cool.
Just kind of on a little excursion and stuff. And I'll never forget it, because it was like tour plus insane adventure. And I've done some great national tours and things like that, but that was a wild one. I mean, that's swimming in the Amazon, which should not have done, by the way. I got very, very sick.
Crocodile.
Oh yeah. Anacondas, crocodiles, piranhas. I mean, oh goodness, right? Like, gracious.
That's wild. So
yeah, go ahead.
AI, good or bad?
You know, that is a tough one. And I knew we'd probably discuss it because, you know, I actually came from the technology industry as well. And I have a love-hate relationship with technology. In all honesty, before I even went full-time into this just a couple years ago, I was working for a pretty well-known tech firm where we were reinventing some of Amazon's products for them to be utilized in the stadiums like major base. Like, we were basically reprogramming them to be voice activated suites in arenas and stuff. And we were doing all that. And so I was like, man, I really love technology. It blends well with like my creativity. So I did a lot of that. So here we are now, and AI is popping up, and this is more technology. And I love technology as a tool, but it's really going to be dependent on how it's utilized or abused. And I wouldn't say it's too early to know what's happening, but it's happening already, and it's rapid. And I would like to find ways that it will be, you know, useful to us. But I really, really do hope that there are going to be some very well thought out limitations set to what can and can't be. I think it's going to affect certain areas of music use before others, right? Like I said, I've had this conversation with a lot of people. My hope is that the TV and film world is affected last, because I do know there's a lot of proponents to that because of the way it's being used to picture, and there's a lot of legalese and things like that. But I do know that, in all honesty, I actually just ran into a friend that was creating AI generated music and releasing it and doing no work. And I was like very angry. So, you know,
one last one here. About that, a hobby that has nothing to do with music.
Oh, jeepers. In all honesty,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to count this, we are avid travelers. Like it is
Mm.
probably, other than music, travel is my passion. I truly believe in just experiences in
Mm-hmm.
general. Like even for holidays, birthdays, and Christmas, my
Yeah,
wife and
yeah.
I are like, what experience can we give each other
That's
versus,
so cool,
just buying
man.
things?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like even in 2 weeks, we're headed to Switzerland to go
Oh,
hiking. Like, it just worked out great, and we've been all over the world together. And about once a year, we really try to lock in and just say, where are we going to go experience, or what are we going to experience
yeah.
next? So
Okay, I have to ask you then this last
yeah.
one, which is, do you have a favorite place that you've traveled to? It's like, oh my God.
Oh, sure. In all honesty, one of our favorite ones. Okay, I'm gonna give you two. I'll give you
Okay.
quick two. One will be in the United States, and one's gonna be international. In the United States, Washington State is so fun. Like
Really?
going out to the Olympic Peninsula has been
Mm-hmm.
one of our favorite things to do. We've done it twice in 3 years now, just because we love it so much.
Mm.
Then you're heading into like Seattle for the end of your
Yep.
trip, getting some great food and some salmon and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We love the Olympic Peninsula out there. Internationally, in all honesty, one of our favorite, most memorable trips was when we went to Portugal and Spain.
Mm.
And we were actually there the day the world shut down from
Oh,
COVID.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
We were, but we got to travel all over Portugal and Spain, and we love culture, like just love it, and we really try to educate ourselves on at least a little bit of the language to
Mm-hmm.
interact with the locals and just like say, hey, we're here to
Yeah.
enjoy what you guys have. Thank you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was fun going between Portuguese and Spanish, and
Yeah.
my wife, thank goodness, had taken enough Spanish in like high school and college to get us through,
Mm-hmm.
because we would have been lost without her for sure.
Wow.
But
That's,
yeah, we were over there and we got to take the overnight trains. We had some incredible, things happen with some random old Germans on a platform late at night, and they were hilarious. And then the day the world shut down, we got on a plane. I mean, every airport that we'd land at would
mm-hmm.
cancel all of our flights. We'd have
Wow.
to rebook every place we went, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like, I think we were 30 minutes in the air leaving Europe for the last time, and that's when the president said no more flights out. So we made it by 30 minutes. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for all of that.
Beautiful.
That's,
Yeah.
I was making notes. So, Ryan, your last question I ask everybody is you've
Sure.
been doing this a while and you've been quite successful. And do you have any advice or lessons learned for somebody that's headed down the path? Something you might help them maybe make their journey a little bit easier.
Absolutely. So, I'll base it off of artistry as well as production music. I think it's the same
Hmm.
for both, in all
Hmm.
honesty, is the hardest part for anyone in human nature is patience. We all
Mm,
want it because we just want to experience the celebration of what we hope is coming, right? Our dream and
yeah.
what this is. But the patience is the key factor. It's where I see a lot of people give up. It's
Hmm.
like they're right there. They're putting time. And then there are a lot of people that they just don't want to they hear about it. They don't want
Hmm.
to put the time in.
Hmm.
But my biggest advice is stick with it, educate,
Hmm.
learn from other people, be kind to other people. That is the biggest thing. Your kindness will lead to experiences with people.
Hmm.
And that's really gone a long way for me. Is just, I'm all about, can I take you to lunch? Can we just hang
Yeah.
out? Can we just say, I don't want things from you. I want to give you an experience together. Educate after that. Like, suck it all in, learn, but patience is the key, because this is not a fast industry. It is a very slow industry to then get into it.
Mm,
Because of the education, I truly do believe you need to be a service.
yeah.
And being the
Wow.
service is the number one thing that everyone that I know that I respect in this industry has taught me, is be a service. Don't just be a product. Make friendships, be kind, work hard, but provide something that is useful to someone, not just expecting from people all the time. And I truthfully try
Mm,
to apply that in everything I do.
wow.
So, that's what I'd say is education and patience, and kindness, in all honesty. And I know that sounds like soft, but it is absolutely key. Like it really is.
Ryan, that's some of the best advice that I've heard on this podcast ever. And it's been a joy to talk with you. I can feel your energy. I can feel your positivity. I can see that you just enjoy your life. And I can see that you're a kind guy. I hope we get to talk some more. I'm going to go listen to the lyrics of that song.
Absolutely enjoy.
Hey, I hope to catch up again. Thanks for your time, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
You take care.